Hi guys, I'm Robin Gale and welcome back to my channel. I am headed to the park to meet with Mike W. Mike W is a member of Narcotics Anonymous and he's going to be sharing his story with us today on how he recovered from drug addiction. And I'm just going to sit in for support. So hopefully this video inspires you. If you have a substance abuse problem, there are 12-step programs you can attend, such as Narcotics Anonymous. So I hope you enjoy his story. I hope it inspires you if you need to get help with addiction. Mike. Our next speaker is Mike.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Mike. Grateful to God to be clean. I want to thank Narcotics Anonymous for doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. I want to thank. I was introduced to Narcotics Anonymous in 19 what 83, but like I said, I wasn't ready then. I had to go out there and then keep putting my hand in the fire and get burnt till I got thoroughly convinced that this ain't gonna work for me. Um, So I'm the oldest out of three brothers and a sister. My mom came here on a train in a bus from Jackson, Mississippi, back when racism was real big or whatever. She decided carrying me in her tummy. And it was a sin for women back then to be pregnant, to have a baby out of wedlock. So she didn't want my grandmother to know that she was pregnant, and so we ended up in California. We moved in Watts, and I thought Watts was like Beverly Hills to me compared to being a young man raised in the South. Um, but so I've seen a lot of things. You know, I had a problem with the color of my skin. I had an identity problem. I used to hate these real high yellow light skinned guys because it seemed like to me that they would always get the pretty women or be able to have a date with one or two or whatever. And I would like to say that happened for me, but it didn't. So I grew up as a child with resentment because of my skin. So I grew up with having a lot of resentments. My mother used to send me to school. When everybody had back to school outfits, I'd go back to school with the same clothes. And as I progressed and growing, I used to go to school and have like wear clothes like my jeans would be too tight and be flooded. And so I lived through that part of my life where not only that I had a resentment, I lived with a lot of pain, internal pain, you know. But one thing I can say is that my stepdad at the time when my mom left my father, because my father ran ran track, and he played pro football for about a season. He was drafted to Vietnam War. He got an honorable discharge because he got shot in his stomach. He could never return and play football ever in his life again. So his dreams were shattered. And so, being his son, you know, as I was getting older and older, I kind of like followed my dad's footsteps. But the only thing, the resentment I had against my father was because he was a hoe. And I seen the trauma and what my mom went through, and I was angry as a little kid because my dad used to pick me up, and I'm thinking he's finna take me out and we finna have fun or whatever, and he would take me over to one of his girlfriend's houses where he had another family besides the family he already had. So as a child, I'm just talking about the different stages in my life and my age where pain seems to be a normal thing for me. I can't say like other kids say they had a happy child life. No, I didn't. I stayed in a lot of pain. I was angry. about a lot of different things. My dad wasn't at home anymore. My mom had to raise 4 kids, and and me being the oldest, a lot of things I couldn't get involved in and do, like play hide and go get it, spin the bottle, and all these things that we do when we grow up. And so I seen my mom struggling, and so one day I lived in a building where there was Jamaicans, and I started hanging around with them. I even started talking like them. And what happened was, my first hustle was a dime bag of weed. And at this time, I wasn't indulging in anything, whether it was wet, whether it was dry. And so what happened was, I got addicted to the lifestyle. And I realized that a lot of times when people go back and they relapse, it's because they don't let go of the lifestyle. We might stop drinking and using, but we still got that hustling in us where we want to sell something, or for whatever trade you had in that lifestyle, we don't let go of it. And so I happen to be one of them people that believe that fat meat is not greasy at that time. And so I started doing burglaries. I would go in your house when you were at home, in the living room, or where you was at in the house. And while you in there with your family, I'm in your rambling through all your stuff in your bedroom, stealing your jewelry box, stealing her purse and your wallet, and crawling back out the window. So this particular day, as life went on, and me doing all kind of negative things, right? I went into this house one day because I seen this big old beautiful jewelry box. I had a fetish for jewelry boxes, right? I would collect them, after I do a move or whatever. And so what happened was that I decided to go into this one house, and I went into this house, stole the lady's jewelry box, took her purse, put it in a pillow slip. There's a big old fat wallet on the dresser, and I'm like, man, this is going to be a major lick, right? And so I pick up the wallet, and as I'm about to proceed to come out the window, something told me, the voices we hear when we doing wrong and using, the good and the bad, the indifferent or whatever, told me to open the wallet up, right? So I opened the wallet, and I'm thinking it's a whole lot of money in the wallet, which it was, but in between the wallet was an LAPD badge. And so what happened was I froze. I tried to come up with an idea or plan how to get out of the house. And for some reason, my feet was glued to the floor. It's like my mind say let's go, but my body said you ain't going no damn where, right? And so I'm standing there in these people's bedroom trying to figure out how to get out without them hearing me, and I had that old dope fiend prayer: God, if you get me out of this one, I won't do it again. And so what happened was I was able to get away, and this is where I know that my behavior, man, was very compulsive, because I would get out of situations in my life, and I would do the very thing that I prayed to ask God to get me out of. I would do it again and again and again, countless times. And so what happened, of course, because of my reckless behavior and everything else, one day my grandmother died, and I was over some so-called friends' houses and stuff. They were smoking weed and snorting cocaine, and so they told me, man, you know how we had them sponsors in the beginning that tell you sniff a little of this, drop a little of that, drink a little of this. And so I didn't realize that, my disease was present long before I took my first of anything. It was just based on my thinking. My stinking thinking was corrupt, and so basically, every time I thought of something that I needed to do, I did it, because I felt like that was something that I needed to do. And so what happened was, make a long story short, I did all that stuff, sold dope and everything and this and that, using dope and everything, until one day I became my best customer. It's like I started out selling drugs, and at the end it was like people knocking on my door to get it, and I'd be like, I ain't got none, I'm out. And so I did this for a while and everything. And so one day I asked my brother for $20, and he said, And it was strange because when I looked at my brother this time, he had this glow. He had his construction business kicked up. You know what I'm saying? He had this walk that he didn't have before. And there was a lot of different things that was going on, you know, that let me know that my brother had changed and he wasn't the same person that he was, you know, prior when he went to do time, you know. And so I asked him for $20. And what happened was, he said, I'll give you $20 if you go to this meeting with me. And I'm like, well, what meeting, right? And he said, this Narcotics Anonymous meeting that we have. It's in a treatment program downstairs, right? And so I said, okay, because only thing I can think of is like, you know, how many nickels I can chop up out of that $20 when I get me a 20, right? Because, you know, I hear people talking about them smoking ounces and, you know, and all this dope and everything. I smoke in $5 increments. And so anyway, I went to the meeting and I stood in the back of the meeting and he said, no, go sit in the front row. And so everybody started looking at me walk to the front. You know, I felt uncomfortable. I felt like I didn't be there. And I even know today that that was just a part of my disease to intervene me from getting some help. And so I sat in the front and there was this lady talking about the horrible things that had happened in her life. And sometime when she jumped out of cars, she jumped out, you know, because, you know, people were, her tricks was trying to rape her, and then sometimes she turned the trick and she didn't get paid, and I was angry when I heard that, you know. And the reason why I was angry, it was because when I grew up as a kid, I seen a lot of abuse that my mom went through, so it made me angry when men put their hands on women, you know. And so when I heard that story at the coffee break at the Narcotics Anonymous meeting, I walked over to the coffee pot, and I didn't know no better, and I walked up to the lady, and I said, that guy that did all this stuff to you, where's he at right now, you know? And she looked at me and she was amazed. I said, yeah, where's he at? I'll take care of it. And you know, and so I'm just saying that this is how I was introduced to the fellowship that I love so much. And so after that, after that, excuse me, I apologize for someone calling me. I forgot to turn my phone on. So after that, I started going to meetings. I kept coming back even though I was getting loaded until one day they said, you know, that when a student is ready, the teacher will appear. And that particular day, I heard one thing that changed me for the rest of my life. And that one thing was, you don't have to get loaded no matter what. That was like, you know, something like, come from the heavens or something, right? And so I said, wow, you mean to tell me that I don't have to use no matter what? Even when I want to? And so, you know, I stayed clean on that. Got me a sponsor, started working the steps, ended up giving me some sponsees. And then one day at 21 years clean, the disease revisited me and told me that I didn't have to go to meetings anymore. And so I stopped going to meetings, and then by me disconnecting myself from the fellowship, I started selling dope again because that's familiar to me. And I ended up using again, and I went to another program. And so this program that I went to at the time was a 6-month program. I was there 4 months. They put me out because I knew too much, of course. At least I thought I did. One more time, my stinking thinking. And so I went to another program for 6 months. Then I went to a transitional living for 4.5 months. And before you know it, I had a little over 18 months clean. And so what happened is that I've been clean ever since. And so in the process of before I decided to go to that program after relapsing that time, my mother had died. And I was with her, taking care of her. My mother knew I was smoking dope in the house. And so she would tell me things like, you know, you don't need to go out there. You need to stop doing what you're doing. You need to get some help. You know, the things that people tells us when we own one. And so I tell my mom I'm all right, you know, and like I took care of her. You know, there's a lot of things I found out in my step work that was not all bad, all negative. There was some great things that I did when I was using. not to justify using, not to promote using, but it was some things that I did that that showed me that God was still present when I took care of my mom when she had cancer. And the day before she died, when I apologized to her, she told me one thing, and it stuck with me like man, like white on rice. She said, "Baby, I forgive you. Please go get you some help." Those were her wishes, and those were her last words to me as her son that she wanted me to do. 3 days later, I was in a treatment program. And from that day, I've been clean for a little over 6 years, and I haven't looked back since. To tell you how powerful God is. I suffered a lot of losses. The sponsor I had then when I was using was the sponsor I still had when I was clean. He passed away. I was speaking at a meeting in LA called the MJB, and what happened at that, as soon as I finished speaking, I got a call from my son saying, "Dad, you need to get to the hospital. Bliff is, they don't think he's gonna make it." And so I ended up at Kaiser Hospital on the west side. By the time I got there, I could tell in the corridor how everybody was with their head down, crying and screaming that he was gone. And so I didn't even go down the hallway. I just collapsed right there by the elevator and sat on the floor, and my son seen me, my oldest boy, and his wife, and they came down and they lifted me up and they helped me. That was one of the hardest things for me to do, was to lose a son. Clean. And so, maybe about 30 days today, I'll say not today, but yeah, about 29 days ago, I lost my sister. She passed away in her sleep. And so the reason, I don't know why, but I think that the reason why I'm sharing this right now is to release some freedom within myself, and that maybe somebody hear my story where it give them some hope and let them know that it's really okay to feel what you feel, but it's not okay to get loaded behind what you feel. I've learned how that my spiritual foundation with God is stronger than it's ever been. Even when I came around here in 1988 and had all that time, this experience that I'm having now is totally different than the experience that I had. I used to hear about people relapsing and coming back. I was one that never experienced that with 21 years, and now I really know how they felt. Now I really know how hard it was for them to come back, because it took me 7 years to make it back almost in this fellowship. And so I want to say to anyone that's out there that the program of Narcotics Anonymous work, if you're allowed to work in your life. There's going to be some rough times, some real hard times. But no matter what, we don't get loaded behind our feelings and emotions anymore. We do have a solution. I don't know what your solution is, but my solution has always been God. You know, God put people in my life to deliver a message and hope to me when I'm going through something. I can call somebody that can help me. So like I said, I want to thank you for this opportunity. And I'm going to keep coming back. Thank you.